Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gail Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gailcarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Living Regret Free. I want to ask that you subscribe to Apple Podcasts and YouTube for any new content we put out, and we sure would appreciate it. My guest today is Cheryl Lampard. She is the founder and principal consultant of Style Matters International, a style and imagery consultancy whose mission is to enable and empower clients to discover a personal style that enhances self-image and instills confidence. Described by one of her clients as like having your own very Mary Poppins. I love that. You're having your own Mary Poppins. Wow. She's a trusted advisor to stars of stage, screen, captains of industries, executives, and individuals around the world. Welcome, Cheryl. How are you?
Thank you very much, Dr. Gell. I'm fine, thank you very much. How are you today?
I'm doing great. And you have this wonderful show called Knitter Matters. And the interesting thing to me is we're talking about you as really a style person, an image person, but you are a knitter. So how and when did you get interested in knitting?
You know, it's a really interesting question because I don't actually know the answer. It's something I've always done. And I actually don't remember being taught how to knit, but I do recall when I was about 5 being given one of those little knitting kits with the kiddie-sized plastic needles and little balls of coloured yarn. So I imagine I started with that, and either my mother or grandmother taught me. My grandmother was a prolific knitter, and I used to love watching her knit and crochet. But clearly it was something that was in my DNA, as years later I designed a yarn store in the UK, and designed items for a cashmere house as well. So it was something that was obviously there, but just though this maternal lines brought it out in me from my mother and grandmother.
That's so interesting because I am so not there. When I was in the 7th grade, we did a knitting. We were knitting Argyle socks.
Oh, right.
And so my Argyle socks, which I knitted for a guy, had more holes in them than Swiss cheese. I mean, it was just a miracle that anything resembling a sock came out of that. So I was, and I wasn't too good with the cooking either. And to this day, I don't cook. So I have to admire you because my aunt was a fabulous knitter, and she always gave us knitted items for all of our celebrations, and
Right.
I still have many of her things.
Oh, how
And
lovely.
yeah, I mean, from a young kid, and it was really, really interesting because it was just second nature to her.
Yeah.
So how did you get into image consulting?
And that also goes back, I think, to being a child. My mother, I came from a family of people that sewed, and I was very fortunate that my mother used to make nearly all my clothes, which was a great thing. And very often I was allowed to pick out the fabric and the color. And I had a real interest in the craft. And my mother used to make a matching item of what she'd just made for me, for my dolls. So that was wonderful to me. But I used to pick up the scraps of fabric and play with those and then sew those. And, I used to make terrible things for anybody that was in the house, the cat, the dog, unwearable things really, but it gives you an idea. You learn how to sew them, you learn what a fabric does, and then as I grew up I made my own clothes. And I think when you make garments, you see how different fabrics handle and drape, how they look on the body, and how colors look on you. And you learn almost by sort of osmosis what works for your body shape and your personality. And then I found that throughout my working life, I used to sew a lot at weekends. And then through my working life, I found I was constantly asked by friends and colleagues to help them find an outfit for a special occasion, a date, a job interview. And I was always happy to do that. But then I had an opportunity to change careers from a corporate life. And I just knew the direction I wanted to go in. So I did various training courses because, you know, it's one thing to think you're good at something and another thing to find out if you actually are. And that was it. I absolutely knew it was right for me. So I always say that image consulting found me rather than the other way around.
So funny because I did a Facebook Live today, 3 of them on image, because years ago I started out in the modeling business and, of course, did fashion shows all over the place because that was the thing back then, and got into image consulting even when image consulting wasn't image consulting.
I understand.
You didn't even know what that was.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just very interesting to see how far that particular endeavor has come. So when you started your business, did you have plans of doing a Facebook show about knitting?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, this really started back in March. It was, you know, most evenings I sit and knit. It's my relaxation, it's my therapy. And I sit on the sofa and I'm knitting while I'm watching something on the TV or a film or something. And it was back in March when COVID had been declared a pandemic. And I thought, you know, with so many people in lockdown, staying at home, maybe learning a new skill or picking it up again, something creative that didn't need a ton of equipment or a lot of investment. You know, why don't I just teach people how to knit via Facebook Live? I used to teach people how to knit in my yarn store. So I felt comfortable doing that. And I do love to share information. And I announced to my husband that I had this idea, and the look on his face, because I just said I have an idea, and it was that, oh my goodness, what she's coming up with now. And then when he heard what I had in mind, he said, well, that's great. Let's better get on and do it then. So less than a week later, you know, I'd said it now out loud, so it was going to happen. So less than a week later, I did the first one, and that was over 6 months ago. It was incredible, really. So I didn't plan on starting teaching people how to knit course, but it just struck me. It was one of those things that I thought, why don't I share this knowledge that I have with other people? I'm sure there's other people out there that would enjoy picking up a new skill or even, you know, trying again. So
why do you think it's so popular today? I mean, you know, a lot of young people are not really, I don't think, geared that way. So who is your audience?
Well, it's interesting you should say that. And I can only commiserate with you on the socks, the Argyle socks that you knitted, because that's a really complicated project for a first project. So I commend you on that. But unfortunately, it didn't go the way you might have liked it to. So it probably put you off for life. But, you know, I think knitting is one of those things that never goes away. It's a very old craft, but it's constantly evolving and it never really goes away. And it's no longer the I'll knit it because it's cheaper thinking that it was in my grandmother's day. It's a creative art and it can be done at all sorts of skill levels. You can knit really simple things like pot holders or squares, or the more complicated, intricate items like Argyle socks. But they're all using the same basic equipment. It's needles and yarn. And I think it's a fiber art that can fit many different budgets, from inexpensive yarns to very high end. There's always a new technique to learn. So it's never boring. There are so many amazing yarns these days and patterns available. And it's portable. You can take it with you. But onto your point about young people, Dr. Gale, you know, it's interesting because it's really not just older people, whatever that means, who knit. Statistics show basically an equal spread of age ranges across the board, from teenagers to seniors. And interestingly, among the young knitters age group, which is classified as 18 to 34, over half of those people knit daily. So it's really a skill that I think a lot of people are rediscovering or discovering for the first time.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, I'm glad to see that young people are interested in that. So tell us a little bit about your show, how it's grown, and how you explain its popularity.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing because, when I started it off, it was in the full knowledge that I could be sitting there in Facebook land just talking to myself with nobody watching. But astonishingly, after looking at the statistic, after an episode 25 a couple of weeks ago, I've reached over 123,000 people, and each episode averages over 600 views. Plus, I've just reached 600 followers on Facebook. But I think based on the feedback I get, I think it's popular because I started it from the point of view of an absolute beginner, even how to hold the needles and the yarn. And I'll say things like, I hold my needles like a 5-year-old, which I absolutely do. And I'll sometimes make a mistake or drop a needle, and it's live. I'm demonstrating something and talking it through. It's real, and things go wrong sometimes. And I want people to know that we all make mistakes and it's okay. And when it comes to knitting, pretty much everything in knitting can be fixed. And I think viewers like the pace, and that my aim for them is for progress, not perfection. It doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you enjoy it and you're making progress, it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it when you were talking about squares. I do remember we also had to do an Afghan.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I've had experience in both. But where do you see the show going at this point?
Yeah, that I've often pondered on that, and it is a tough question because unlike my other business as an image consultant, my day job, if you will, I really had no plan in mind for it. But seeing how it's panning out, I think I'd really like to be regarded as a knitting educator and an influencer, and for Knitter Matters to get better and better, so it ends up being a go-to channel for people who want to learn or progress in their knitting.
That's fabulous. So you also, from what I understand, were able to attract sponsors, which is not an easy thing, and especially in this time of COVID. So how were you able to do that?
Well, I'm fortunate actually to have a collaboration with Mary Maxim, who are one of the largest online sellers of yarns and craft materials in North America. And when it became apparent that the show was gaining traction, I reached out to the CEO of the company, and he was very willing to listen and work with me because they were also seeking to attract a more design-oriented customer to add to their craft-focused clients. So that collaboration is working really well.
Well, you're very fortunate because I know a lot of people who are looking for sponsors, but it's not an easy thing to do. So what kind of suggestions would you pass along to the people who are transitioning into something new, which is an awful lot of people today, Cheryl?
Yeah.
I mean, there are, with people losing their jobs and looking to the future and saying, what is going to be there for me? I mean, you must have some suggestions for them.
Yeah, I think I do, Dr. Garrett. I think the most important thing is, if you're thinking of sort of, it's an overused word, but pivot is the word that everybody's using at the moment, or transitioning into something new. I think you have to be passionate about it, whatever that may be. It's got to be something that you love or you love to do, that you're really interested in. And clearly that, obviously that doesn't guarantee success or that things will just fall into place. But if you're not passionate about it, that shows, and that makes it really hard to sustain when things get tough and the passion is gone. I also think you just have to give it a go, especially if it's something you can do via social media or via a virtual platform. One of the upsides of this, what is incredibly challenging and difficult year, is that it has given rise to all sorts of opportunities. And doing things virtually now has become the norm. And I think that will carry on like that. Our lives have changed and they'll continue to change. But that's when amazing ideas come to people. And that phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. I think that's very true now. It rings very true now. So I think the key things are you've got to be passionate about it, and just give it a go. If it's not going to cost a fortune to do, or use something that you can transition into it in some way, do it part-time maybe to start off with, then it's worth giving it a go.
And sometimes it's kind of interesting. And sometimes when you're looking for something or you're trying to find a product or a service or whatever, it stimulates an idea because you can't find it and you think, gosh, there's got to be a lot of other people looking for this too. But
Exactly.
I'm also got a kick. You probably have seen the commercial on TV with John Stamos where he's sitting in a scarf. That's got to be. And I've been trying to hear what he's saying of the kind of stitch he's doing, and it's so subtle. I still haven't heard what kind of stitch it is. But
I can tell you. Yeah, I can tell you. I did post that on my Knit and Matters Facebook page, but I think he says it's a reverse garter stitch pattern, reverse garter stitch. Oh, it's also there's something else. It's gone from me completely, but it's a reverse. There's me saying that I knew what it was, and now it's gone out of my head. But it's a reverse garter stitch. But there's also something else that. But I have
said something simple.
Yeah, there is something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
On my Facebook page. But yeah, no, it's a cute advert. It's great.
So you say that you're a trusted advisor to stars of stage, screen, etc.
Yes.
How do they find out about you, or what did you do to become a trusted advisor to people who are celebrities?
Yeah, well, and that again, it's one of those things. Most of my clients are by word of mouth. It's one of those things. I'm sometimes everybody's best kept secret. It's very interesting. Some people don't really, they benefit from an image consultant and they love to have one, but they don't necessarily share that with anybody else. I'm a best kept secret, and that's just fine. It just depends on different people. But the other people are very happy to tell other people about you and share the experience that they've had. So, generally most of my clients are by word of mouth, or I've been seen doing a presentation. One of the best corporate gigs I ever got was because I got a phone call from somebody who had a friend who was sitting in the audience on a presentation that I gave. And she liked what I was conveying. So she told her friend, and that friend was a significant person in a company, and thought we must have this for our employees. So, you just sometimes never know where those referrals come from.
And so when you started this, when you were working in corporate, were you doing image consulting? Is that what you did?
No, not. Oh, by the way, I can tell you what the John Stamos comment was. I've just found it again on my Facebook page. He said, it's just a double fleck pattern with a reverse garter stitch.
Wow.
And that does exist. That is a pattern.
And it's got to do a lot for your show, too.
Yes. Well, if he would come on, it would do a real amount for it. But that would be great.
That would be unbelievable.
Wouldn't it? Anyway, back to your question, Dr. Girl. No, I wasn't doing image consultant in my corporate life. I worked for a multinational company in London, and I loved every minute of it. But this was where the, people would say to me, do you think you could help me at the weekend? I'm looking for a special outfit. I need this for a whatever. And I was always happy to do that. Or people would say, you have a really good eye for color. Can you help me? And I would be happy to do that. So I would spend my weekends helping colleagues and friends find that special outfit or understand why that shape or silhouette was better for them than this one. Because I think it's difficult sometimes. Fashion is a wonderful thing, but fashion isn't necessarily the same thing as style. And if you don't know what suits your particular body shape, if you don't know the attributes of your body and proportions, it's difficult to know where to start. So I would always have people try things on, because inevitably there's something that they think they love the idea of, and then they put it on and it's disappointing to them. So I would sort of find myself analyzing why something didn't work for them. And I, that was because of my sewing background. I understood why a fabric might work. I understood why a certain style might work. So, I would be able to convey that to them, and then it would be, oh, I see. Well, maybe I should look for something that's less fitted here. Or, if you have a short waist or a long waist, that really helps you define what garments suit you. And most of us grow up not knowing that. So I just found my life was filled with corporate life during the week, and finding wonderful outfits or helping people find a wonderful color for something during the weekends. And it was something I loved doing. And then there was a global reorganization, and I had the opportunity for a career change. And I thought, I'm ready for this now. This is where I want to go. I want to take that leap of faith and do this.
That's fantastic. That really is. You know, thinking back, you know, you talk about sewing. My grandfather on my mom's side was a tailor.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
his wife, my grandmother, was a tailor as well.
Right.
And then my mother sewed all of my dancing costumes.
Wonderful.
So, but I did not inherit that
Oh,
that particular trend. But we've got about 5 minutes left, Cheryl, and I want to make sure that we get your offer to our listeners. Now, you said that you'll give 1 2-hour online consultation. So, or it could be a 1-to-1 knitting lesson.
yes.
So, folks, if you are listening to this and she's offering only 1, where would they go to get this, Cheryl? How can they reach you?
If they would like to email me at Cheryl at stylemattersinternational.com. That's Cheryl, Cheryl, at style, STYLE, matters, MATTERS, international.com, and mention that they would like this opportunity because they've heard it on your show. I'll take the first person that comes to me with that.
Fantastic. That sounds great. Well, you know, I want to remind the listeners that we are asking you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and YouTube for any new content. I want to also invite any of you who are over 50 to my special Facebook group, which is free, the Virtual SOB Club, Virtual SOB Club. And then if you are interested in contacting me, you can do so at www.spunkyoldbroad.com. And there's a contact form there. If you have a question for me, send it to me. I'll answer it right away. So there's a bunch of things there for you. Now, Cheryl, we have about 3 minutes left. What have we not talked about that you want to tell our audience?
Oh gosh. Don't be afraid to try new things, whether it's in a hobby or whether it's, a new skill, whether it's reaching out and perhaps transitioning into a different job. And I understand that can't be done overnight, but think about it. Think those things that you think, I've always wanted to try this, or I've always wanted to have a go at this. Even if it's something simple like, I've always wanted to wear a different color, or I don't wear colors. Why not try it? And you can start small. When it comes to image, I always say to somebody, if you're not sure about what colors suit you, try it first. It's something that you're drawn towards. Try it in a small amount, maybe a scarf or an accessory. See what you feel about it. No harm can come to us by trying something like that. So, be brave, be bold. It's easy to get stuck into a rut, but it takes a few steps to get out of it sometimes.
Yeah, I know that my best colors are hot pink and I guess what you'd call turquoise. Right. Those are my 2 best colors. I mean, they just seem to make me stand up.
Yeah, they work for you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I want to encourage everybody. You don't talk about sewing too much today. You don't talk about knitting too much today. So if you have a chance to go on Facebook and find Cheryl's show, which is Knitting Matters.
It's Knitter Matters.
Knitter Matters.
Yeah.
Do so, because she's somebody that you can have fun with. And then remember, somebody described her as their own Mary Poppins. What's better than that? I can't think of anything. I mean, what a great tagline that is. I think that's wonderful. So, she's a resource for you. She's someone who can help you. And, in these times, she mentioned, in the times of COVID, when you're sitting on the couch, when you're watching TV, there's nothing better than knitting. And so, and especially too, if you want to learn about, your own clothing and so forth, just get in touch with her. Cheryl, it has just been a delight to have you today. Thank you so much for being with us. And hopefully people will learn how to live regret-free by watching you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hi, this is Dr. Gail, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gailcarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.